October 2001. The bill is thick. The pages slide against each other like sandpaper. A staffer carries it down a corridor with tired lights. The words on the cover promise protection, tools, speed. Inside the chamber, most seats are filled. A vote is coming, and the room has already decided. The air in Washington still feels split open. Only weeks earlier, smoke had drifted over a distant skyline. Sirens had layered over radio voices. People had watched from sidewalks, stunned. Hands over mouths, eyes fixed upward. Then the mail began to frighten people too. Envelopes were treated like threats. Powder on a desk could empty a building. In that atmosphere, fear is not a feeling. It is a schedule. Fear is a meeting that starts early and ends late. Fear is a stack of memos that never stops growing. Fear is a question that keeps returning in different forms. How do you stop the next attack? In a windowless room, lawyers and investigators sit around a table. They do not speak in slogans. They speak in lists. They name the things they believe slow them down. Walls between agencies, rules about what can be shared, limits on what can be collected, delays in getting permission, judges who require specificity. Some of those limits were built after earlier abuses. Some were built to keep power from drifting into the dark. Now the argument in the room is simple. If rules cost time, and time costs lives, then rules must move. A draft begins to form. It pulls parts from older laws and bends older authorities. It expands the reach of intelligence-style surveillance inside the United States. It widens the path for gathering business records with court orders. It allows delayed notice for searches in some cases. It extends surveillance that can follow a target who changes devices. It increases tools for tracking and tracing communications. It creates new crimes, new penalties, new definitions. Most of the country does not see the draft. Most of the country hears only the word urgent. A law that might take months is pushed through in weeks. Members of Congress receive the text. Many do not have time to read it all. Some admit they are voting in a fog of fear and duty. In a Capitol office, an assistant opens the bound pages. The assistant is not a lawmaker. The assistant is a worker in the machine. Coffee stains the corner of a notepad. A phone rings again and again. Every call is about the same thing. Are you voting yes? The assistant flips through section titles. They look administrative, almost boring. Then a phrase lands with weight. Business records. The assistant thinks of what records mean in real life. Bank statements, hotel receipts, library checkout logs, medical bills. The paper trail of an ordinary adult life. Down the hall, another staffer is focused on another section. It deals with letters that demand information, letters that can come with silence attached. Not silence as courtesy, silence as rule. A recipient can be told not to speak about the demand. The power becomes not only to collect, but to seal the collection in place. In the chamber, the vote board waits. The bill has a name built to sound like a shield, uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. People call it the Patriot Act. A name like that pushes against hesitation. To vote no can feel like stepping away from the line. The vote happens. Most vote yes. A small number vote no. There are speeches afterward, but the result is already printed into the day. The law becomes Public Law 107-56. It moves to the president. A signature turns pages into authority. In the days after passage, the language of the law is translated into checklists. A federal judge reviews an application in chambers. The request is sealed. The file is marked and stored. In another building, an agent reads the same authority in plain terms. You may ask for more, you may ask faster, you may share wider. A conference room fills with supervisors. A map lies on the table, pins pressed into paper. Names are written on cards. Phone numbers are copied into folders. Some names are real, some are wrong. The cost of speed is not only privacy, it is accuracy. When the net widens, it catches more than the intended target. At an airport, an adult traveler is pulled aside. A bag is opened. Questions repeat. The traveler answers, then answers again. No one shouts. No one needs to. The power is in the delay, in the quiet control of time. Hours disappear behind a door. In a post office, clerks handle a stack of letters with gloves. A supervisor points to a bin set aside. Some mail is treated like evidence. Some mail is treated like poison. The fear from the earlier attacks is now part of the routine of work. In that atmosphere, the law moves from paper into practice. At first, the law is explained as targeted. The target is terror networks. The target is hidden cells. The target is money trails, communications, travel. The public is told the tools will be used with oversight. The words oversight and safeguard repeat like a promise. Then the machinery begins. Agents request orders from a secret court. They seek business records tied to investigations. They use surveillance that can move with a person. They apply for delayed notice warrants in some searches. They ask for tracking information. They share intelligence across walls that once held it in separate rooms. In offices across the country, administrators feel a new pressure. A university council reads a memo. A bank compliance officer studies a policy update. A librarian hears a rumor that records can be demanded. A telecom technician is asked to assist with a lawful intercept. Each person is told it is legal. Each person is told it is necessary. A librarian in a small city keeps the building quiet. The job is routine. Shelves, returns, due dates, requests. Adults come in for newspapers, for manuals, for job listings. The librarian does not think of the work as political. It feels like service. One afternoon, a man in a suit asks for the manager. His posture is calm. He does not show anger or warmth. He shows paperwork. The librarian is told the request is compulsory. The librarian is also told that speaking about the request is not allowed. The message is clear. Comply and stay silent. The librarian signs. Hands are steady, but the chest is tight. After the man leaves, the room feels smaller. The librarian looks at a shelf of books about rights and law. The irony sits there, silent, like dust. In another place, a landlord notices unfamiliar cars on the street. In another place, a student hears that a friend was questioned. In another place, a traveler is detained longer than expected. These are fragments, not headlines. The national mood is still defined by security. People want normal, and they accept extraordinary powers if the promise is safety. Soon, the debates begin to harden. Civil liberties groups warn that the new tools can be misused. They point to the reach of business records orders. They point to secrecy rules. They point to delayed notice searches. They point to broader definitions that could sweep in people who are not terrorists. Government officials respond with their own argument. They say the tools are vital. They say they have helped disrupt plots. They say the law updated old rules for a new era. They say oversight exists through courts, inspectors, and Congress. Both sides speak in the language of protection. One speaks of protecting lives from attacks. The other speaks of protecting rights from erosion. The tension is not theatrical, it is structural. A system built for safety will always hunger for more data. A system built for freedom will always fear quiet expansion. The law does not stay frozen in 2001. It comes with sunsets, deadlines written into the text. It must be renewed. That requirement becomes a battleground. In the years that follow, Congress returns to the same question. Should these powers continue? Some lawmakers demand limits and clearer standards. Some demand shorter time frames. Some demand transparency. Others argue that removing tools would be reckless. Reauthorizations pass. Changes are made. Some provisions are adjusted. Some reporting requirements expand. Yet the basic shape remains. Information can be demanded with less visibility than ordinary criminal cases. Secrecy remains built into the process. In a Justice Department office, an Inspector General team reads case files. They look for misuse. They look for errors. They look for patterns that reveal drift. Oversight here is slow, careful, technical. It is not a dramatic moment on television. It is a file cabinet, a checklist, a fluorescent light. Years later, new disclosures shift the public mood. People learn more about how surveillance is practiced. Court opinions and public reports add pieces to the picture. A program of collecting call detail records is eventually ended. Reform legislation appears. The debate moves from whether surveillance exists to how much, how secret, and under what rules. In 2015, a new law is signed. The name says freedom. It changes parts of the system. It limits certain bulk collection practices and adds new procedures. It is presented as correction without collapse. Yet, the pressure does not vanish. Threats continue. Fear still enters the room whenever an attack happens somewhere in the world. Each time, the same trade is offered. More authority, less friction. In 2020, some expiring surveillance authorities lapse when Congress does not renew them in time. One of the most contested, the Business Records Authority known as Section 215, expires. Debate continues about what should return and what should stay dead. Back in that Capitol corridor, the assistant from 2001 is older now. The assistant remembers the weight of that first stack of pages. The assistant remembers how quickly the vote came. The assistant remembers how simple the choice sounded at the time. Yes, for safety. No for risk. The real story is what happens after. Laws passed in fear do not dissolve when fear fades. They become habits. They become procedures. They become templates for future crises. A democracy does not lose privacy in one dramatic scene. It loses it in quiet, administrative rooms. It loses it in paperwork. It loses it when secrecy becomes routine. It loses it when people are told, comply and do not speak. The Patriot Act did not create surveillance from nothing. Surveillance existed before. What it changed was scale, speed, and the legal lanes that made collection easier. It made it easier to follow a target across devices. It made it easier to compel records held by third parties. It made it easier to delay notice in some searches. It pushed intelligence methods deeper into domestic life. The defenders of the law will say it was necessary, that it saved lives. The critics will say it was overbroad, that it normalized intrusion. Both claims can sit in the same history. A tool can be used for legitimate aims and still create new risks. Power does not stay pure because motives feel pure. Now the question returns, stripped of the smoke and the sirens. If another crisis arrives tomorrow, what will be passed in the rush? What new authorities will be wrapped in a name that shames hesitation? What will be renewed without being read? The bill is still thick. The pages still exist in archives. The ink of the signature still holds. The only variable is the next moment of fear and whether anyone will slow down long enough to read.